Hi, Peter Jones, author, property investor and ex-chartered surveyor. And you've probably heard that expression, seen it on car stickers, that a dog is for life, not just for Christmas and all that kind of thing. And I was thinking the other day that it's actually the same with a refurb, because we often talk about buying a property and refurbing it. If we hold the property, if we keep it as a buy-to-let and rent it out, then that refurb is not going to be forever. Now, I know that we all know this, but sometimes I meet new investors who are somewhat disappointed that they buy a property and they kind of imagine that nothing's ever going to happen. All they're going to do is collect the rent and that's pretty much it. But maintaining and looking after your property is an ongoing thing. And one of the things which I've realised over the last sort of 25 years of investing for myself is that doing a refurb at the beginning is great. There's a lot of benefits to doing refurbs at the beginning, and I've done separate videos on what those benefits are. But that refurb is not going to last forever, because obviously there's going to be wear and tear. Now, I know that that is obvious, but I think sometimes, again, some investors go in naively thinking that once they've done the refurb, that is it forever. But typically, depending upon who you have in a property and how heavy they are in terms of their wear on the property, you could be doing a refurb every 10 years. And it just so happens that the reason why I was reminded of this is because I'm doing a refurb on one of my properties at the moment. And this is probably, just thinking about this, I haven't touched this property for about 20 years. Now, and you may be thinking, well, how come you haven't touched it for 20 years? Well, when I say I haven't touched it for 20 years, there's been ongoing maintenance. So there's been the odd repair here and there. But generally speaking, the tenant will have looked after the property and kept it in a condition in which they were happy to live there. Now, it wouldn't be pristine. And when a tenant hands a property back and when they take all of their furniture out, for example, you start to see all the wear and tear. And it's much more obvious than when they're in there with all their stuff. This particular property is a very typical refurb of the sort of refurb that I do, and I thought you might be interested to see this. Now, sadly, I haven't got a video. My managing agent, who's overseeing the property and doing the project managing for me, sent me sort of like interim photos just to show me how the team are getting on. I thought you might like to see these. So I'm going to jump onto my computer and take you through it. Here's the property. It's a mid-terraced, two-bedroomed house. It's very cheap and cheerful buy-to-let. It's a single family home, and as I say, it's been occupied for about 20 years. It was refurbished when the tenants went in, but it's now very, very dated. So the very first thing which we did was to change the windows and the doors. 2 windows at the front, 3 windows and a door at the back. Total cost of that, 1,300 quid. And one thing which we found is that the local window manufacturer quite often has, particularly front doors, strangely, which are ordered and then never used. And you can buy those pretty cheap. And with not much adjustment, you can put them into your own property. So we found that's been a very cost-effective way of doing windows and doors. Here is the front door, and you'll see it's a very decent quality. Here's my builder, and as you can see from the piles of rubble behind him, he's causing mayhem and doing all kinds of stuff. But it's all good stuff, really. So like many typical refurbs, this includes a new bathroom. Here we are with like half the WC unit in, rearranging the plumbing. Obviously there's going to be areas which are going to need plastering. It's going to need fully decorating once we've finished. There's no carpets in. All the carpets were horrible and went in the skip. They probably had been renewed over the 20 years. I can't remember whether we redid the carpets at 10 years. Probably. But whatever was there was pretty horrible, so they've all gone in a skip. Stairwell, not much to see here except the carpets are gone, and obviously this is an area which will need to be redecorated. Same here with this room. You'll see that it needs decorating, it needs a new carpet, but other than that, looks okay. You see the boiler in there. Now, we had a debate about the boiler. The boiler is actually working fine, so there's no point, in my opinion, in changing it until it's not working fine. So the boiler and the central heating will stay. We don't need to do anything with the central heating, no renewing any of the radiators, no renewing any of the pipes. It's all in really good nick. One of the bedrooms, and typically when a tenant goes, you're going to find all sorts of bizarre colours, particularly in children's rooms. So we'll be redecorating this, and again, new carpet, but not much to do here. So back to the bathroom. This is looking across the bathroom from the other angle, of course, because there's the WC, which we saw earlier. So new bathroom suite, we'll tidy up the tiling, we'll make that look very nice. What I like to do nowadays is to put in a sort of overbath shower unit and use one of those sort of shower bars which goes onto the taps, which is really good, and maybe a nice glass screen which will make it look really good. And last but not least, there's the kitchen. You can see that we're dry lining that party wall, put the battens in, putting the plasterboard on. just to give it a smooth finish. And although we lose a little bit of space, it'll make it feel and look so much better than having all that old battered plaster, and it'll make the finish of the units against the wall that much tighter as well, so it'll be a much neater job. And here are the kitchen units all in boxes waiting to go in. So how much is a refurb like this actually costing? Well, the windows and the doors cost 1,300 quid. That's in and fitted, and they are good quality. For the reasons I told you, it's relatively easy to do doors and windows cheaply when you know what you're doing and you know who to talk to. There's electrical work to do. Not surprisingly, it's quite an old property, and with the requirement for electrical certificates nowadays, there's some bits and pieces to bring it up to standard. That's going to cost about £700, so that's £2,000 including the windows and the doors. And then for the rest of it, which includes the kitchen and the bathroom, doing that wall, skirtings upstairs, just sorting everything out, that's £5,200, a fixed price which I agreed with the builder. On top of that, there'll be about £1,250 for decorations, and the carpets are going to cost around about £1,000 because it's not a very big property. Now, I wouldn't normally want to spend that much money, but obviously the property needs it, and I know that if I do the refurb properly now, it's going to last another 20 years. And it gives me the option actually of, if I want to, I could probably sell this as a flip, and this would probably go quite quickly to a family of owner-occupiers rather than a family of renters, so it gives me all sorts of possibilities. I hope you found that video interesting and useful, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk, where you're going to find all sorts of resources, including free special reports to download and my paid-for resources, including, if you're interested particularly in doing refurbishments of your own, then my best-selling ebook, The Successful Property Renovator's Workshop, which is based upon my experience of refurbishing and renovating over 100 properties, many of which I've kept to rent out and some of which I've sold as flips. There's also other resources which you may be interested in, including one of my other best-selling ebooks, The Successful Property Investor's Strategy Workshop, in which I show you how I started in property literally with none of my own money. That is true. It's not just hype. I literally had none of my own money, but within 4 years I was able to build a portfolio of £2 million worth of property. In this day and age, that's probably going to be the equivalent of £4 million worth of property, and I'll show you everything that I did, including everything that I did right so that you can copy it and do the same, and everything that I did wrong so that you can avoid my mistakes and be far more successful than me far more quickly. And until next time, here's to successful property investing.